Gates has a look back at Donald Trump's long and changing view of Chicago. As a developer, he bet big on our region and frequently fawned over our city.
As president, his attitude changed. WGN Investigates' Ben Bradley has this look back at Trump's long and rocky relationship with Chicago.
You know what I want to say, Donald, you're fired. You're doing a terrible job.
Look at Chicago. What is going on? What is going on in Chicago?
Donald, leave us alone!
What the hell is going on in Chicago? What the hell is happening there?
You might expect trumpets to herald in the entrance of a king or something like that. So we said, what can we do that's the most opposite of that? We'll pick the lowest possible instruments, and that'll be his kind of unfanfare into the Chicagoland area.
It wasn't always like this.
Hi. How are you? Good. How are you? I guess we'll go over here, right? Especially on level 16.
We'll do green building environmental.
No.
When Donald Trump was a real estate developer building his namesake tower downtown,
Does anybody want to walk through the building?
he praised on our city and provided his kids as evidence of his love.
To show you how important this project is to me, I put my children in charge. And that's very important, okay?
13 years earlier, Trump was in Gary, Indiana, angling for a casino license. He described his plans as a floating Shangri-La.
We're negotiating for the finest boat anywhere. And if we're chosen, I think Gary's going to be a very happy place. Riverboat gambling, or gambling, is really what I said, is not a panacea.
He promised jobs, opportunities, and minority investors. His supporters climbed on board the Trump casino caravan.
I think this would be the best thing that ever happened to Gary. If they don't bring it in, we're in a heap of trouble.
A decade later, Trump's casino company declared bankruptcy, and he pulled up anchor and left town. But in the mid-2000s, he was back in Chicago, buoyed by a new wave of celebrity from his hit show The Apprentice.
But Rod, you're fired.
The winner of season 1, Bill Rancic, was ostensibly tapped to oversee construction of the Trump Tower in Chicago.
Donald Trump came to Chicago to promote what else? Donald Trump.
While the building is beautiful, the financing that made it happen has been called into question.
I'm really rich.
The Chicago skyscraper's main lender, Deutsche Bank, has now vowed to never again do business with Trump. And then there's the matter of the property tax relief Trump received.
Pages and pages of complications.
As WGN Investigates reported in 2016, Trump hired now indicted City Council Finance Committee Chairman Ed Burke to make the appeal.
That's his signature right there. Burke saved Trump millions in property taxes by dropping that piece of the tower's assessed value 70% over 4 years.
As Donald Trump ran for president, plans for a raucous rally on Chicago's Near West Side were scuttled at the last moment over security concerns. Protesters had infiltrated the arena. Fights broke out inside and outside the event.
They need an ambulance! He needs an ambulance!
And that may have been the moment that soured Trump on our city.
Do you think that you bear any responsibility for what's happened at these tonight and at other rallies?
I don't take responsibility. Nobody's been hurt at our rallies, and we have I've had 25,000, 35,000 people.
This was around the time Mr. Trump began trotting out a story about a mythical motorcycle cop who claimed he had the solution to Chicago's crime plague.
I said, how long would it take you to straighten out this problem? He said, if you gave me the authority, a couple of days. I really mean it.
No one has ever been able to identify that officer with a magical medicine to cure crime overnight, but the image stuck. After weekends when Chicago shootings and murders spiked, the president would take to Twitter or talk about the carnage.
It's worse than some of the places that we read about in the Middle East where you have wars going on.
The president convened a meeting on violence in 2017, which led to this dubious declaration from a Cleveland pastor.
I was recently contacted by some of the top gang thugs in Chicago for a sit-down. They reached out to me because they associated me with you. They respect you. They believe in what you're doing. And they want to have a sit-down about lowering that body count.
And what you're doing is the right thing. Then we're going to solve the problem for them, because we're going to have to do something about Chicago. Because what's happening in Chicago should not be happening in this country.
The gang summit never happened. The bloodshed continued. It wasn't until the summer of 2020, 3.5 years into his term, that the president called in the cavalry.
The FBI, ATF, DEA, U.S. Marshal Service, and Homeland Security will together be sending hundreds of skilled law enforcement officers to Chicago to help drive down violent crime.
Mayor Lightfoot originally rejected the help, fearing it would come in the form of militarized agents, similar to what transpired in Portland.
If they try it, I'm going to use every tool at my disposal to stop them.
But this was different. The Justice Department launched Operation Legend.
Its mission is to save lives, solve crimes, and take violent offenders off the streets.
Redeploying a small army of federal agents to assist in gang, gun, and drug investigations. 176 people were federally charged. Trump's attorney general told me in July part of the problem is progressive prosecutors and a revolving door at the courthouse.
Down at the 7th District, they went over a number of cases where these very violent guys with, numerous prior felonies, 7, 8 more felonies, and violence and gun involvement, were let out on the street, committed another homicide. That's not the exception. That's increasingly the rule around here. These people have criminal records and they have to be taken off the streets.
Chicago still ended the year with murders up 50%.
The President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
The president rarely visited America's third largest city during his term. One exception was when he spoke to a gathering of police chiefs in 2019.
Here's a man that could not bother to show up for a meeting of police chiefs, most respected people in the country, in his hometown.
Chicago's then top cop, who would later leave in scandal, boycotted the president's speech.
I have issues with being attacked as a city.
Through it all, the president soldiered on. Trump's take no prisoners, make no apologies style is as bold and brash as the 20-foot-high stainless steel letters that spell out his name downtown.
Stop the steal! Stop the steal!
He leaves the White House with his brand damaged. But as Donald Trump said in Chicago in 2008, even a down market creates opportunity.
It was a great time to buy. It's a bad market. It's a terrible market.
As for those stainless steel letters that spell out Trump overlooking the Chicago River, an alderman calls them a stain on our city. He's pushing an ordinance that would require the Trump letters to come down. But it's important to note that would only happen if the president is charged with and found guilty of treason, sedition, or subversive activities, or if the Senate convicts him on the impeachment charge of inciting the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Ben Bradley, WGN Investigates.